Hello, we are interviewing Ricardo Acosta. We are Keep It Green, Teach Consumption with Reduction. We started this project by following the UNESCO goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. Our solution is to create a digital campaign to teach and to promote the importance of responsible consumption by sharing advices, recommendations of things to help you being a part of making a change in the planet. One way in which we invited people to help is to calculate their ecological footprint, where people can know the impact they have on the environment and start taking conscious.
So, for starting with this interview, we want to ask you, what did you study and why?
Well, the name of my degree is in Spanish biólogo. That simply biólogo, biologist. Or but only biólogo. This is the name of my degree.
Okay, and why do you want to study that?
Well, I think that it was because of my close contact with nature. I was living in the south part of Monterrey, just close to the Cerro de la Silla. And I was always in contact with nature, playing with snakes, wasps, many different animals and plants. So I like nature, and that's why since I was a small kid, I decided to study biology.
Okay, perfect. And tell us about your profession.
My what? Excuse me?
Profession. As a teacher, I mean.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you like what you do? Do you like to teach them?
Yeah. I like a lot to teach, because because there are many things in that I think, or that I saw before teaching, that they were necessary to be told to the young people. And so I decided to teach as part of my professional development, to help young people to discover the world. You cannot take care of the nature if you don't know the nature. So it is necessary to help to the young people to understand with an objective way of thinking the nature.
Yeah, and actually that's what wasn't a reason we chose you for this interview, because we saw you have like that goal to teach young people to know. Yeah, that passion.
Like what, excuse me?
The passion you teach with. I mean, that was one reason we chose you for this interview. So let's go for the other question. Do you believe environmental education is important?
Yeah, it's not only important, it's vital. It's, we need to be informed to preserve the planet and to live. We cannot live without the planet, and we cannot take care of the planet without the information.
Yeah. What do you understand about responsible consumption?
Responsible what?
Consumption.
Well, I think that this consumption, responsible consumption, must be the use of the things that we need to survive or to live with a good quality of life, but without an excess of spending the resources, the use of the resources, without an excess of the use of resources, and only using what we need, and trying to use it wisely, and try to preserve the resources, not only for human but all the living things.
Okay, thank you. And at what age do you think people should start learning about these topics?
Since we are a baby,
Yeah.
since baby with small children.
Yeah.
I think that's the earliest possible is better.
I think that
as
too.
as soon as possible, they say.
Yes. And do you think it's too late for adults to learn about this stuff?
No, no, never, never is too late. When we talk about learning, never is too late. And in this case of taking care of nature, always is important, or never is late to learn or to understand why do we have to take care of the nature. Some people don't take care of the nature because they don't used to take care of the nature. They know that it's important, but they are not used to take care. I think that in the same way in which we can do many things as a routine in our lives, so that the care of the nature should be part of our routine.
Okay. And who do you consider as the main affected if people do not make a change in their consumption and production?
Excuse me, the first part?
Who do you consider as the main affected?
The main what?
Affected.
Affected.
Yes. With not having a responsible consumption.
Because us, all of us,
Yeah,
and not
everyone.
only humans, all living things. We must always keep in mind that the problems of waste disposal or wastewater disposal or the use of resources in normal or in excess always has a consequence not only for humans but all living things in this planet. Even if we think that they are not part of that given environment, there is a consequence for some other living things in other places.
So as we said previously, we chose you. One of the reasons we chose you as the interviewee, is that you teach us biology in second semester, if I remember correctly, and you part of the program and part of what you taught us is about responsible consumption, about ecological stuff that we need to know in order to be, well, better human beings and more responsible in the environment. So, out of all of this, we're hoping if you could tell the people that are viewing and listening right now, if you could tell them 3 actions to promote responsible consumption, as you thought.
Responsible consumption. Well, I think I don't know how to say it if I can say it in order, but maybe not the first one that I mentioned is not the most important, but it comes to my mind to buy only what we need. Some many times we buy things that we don't need, and we do it because we have the money or because we do have the education to buy and buy and buy only many things without the real need of some things. And I think this is one of them. One of the action is to buy what we need and the amount we need it, to prevent the consumption in excess of products that later are going to cause some other kind of problems, as waste disposal, for example, or maybe only pollution of the environment.
Yeah.
This is one I think that I can mention. I want to tell you that I am a teacher of the 3rd and 4th semester.
Oh.
So
It was in third.
It was
Yeah.
it was in 3rd semester.
yeah,
Yeah.
we talk about ecology.
How do you think we can convince people to do this stuff you just mentioned a few minutes ago?
Can you repeat the first part?
Oh, how do you think we can convince people?
Ah,
we can
convince,
tell
yeah.
them-
Let me tell you, before continuing, let me tell you something. I have been working in a hospital for many years, yeah. So in the pathology lab, it was part of my training, part of my specialty in anatomy, and we use substances that cause damage in the ear. So that's why people that work for a long time in this kind of places, we have some degree of loss of hearing. That's why many times I have to listen the everything twice.
Okay.
Yeah, make it please.
Oh,
So,
uh,
should you please repeat?
yeah, if you think, how do you think, like personally, that we could convince the people that are listening to do the things you said for the responsible consumption in the last question?
Well, I think we have to start with the example. We have to start by giving the example. Uh, we cannot, people cannot believe in us if we don't do what we are saying. For example, uh, I one day I said I I think that taking care of nature is important. That's what I said for some people, and they said, so why do you use a big truck? Because in that years I was using a big truck, and I said, oh, people is looking at you. You may think, well, my truck is my truck. Who cares? But what kind of truck do I have? But in that very moment, when I said I think we have to take care of the nature or ecology, because people say ecology, they said, so why do you use a big truck? And then I say, oh, that's correct. Yep, I'm not giving the example. I'm not. I'm talking about taking care of nature or ecology, but I'm using a big truck that is not necessary. And now I use a smaller truck.
Oh, well, that's actually a really good example. Thank you. The next question is, do you know any laws? We know you're not like a lawyer or anything, but any laws that actually promote this cause, the responsible consumption?
No, no,
You
really,
don't
I really
think
don't know.
you don't think there aren't like any laws that will help us?
As far as I know, I don't remember
Yeah.
if I have heard about some of these laws.
Yeah.
I really cannot say.
Thank you. Do you know any companies that
Any
support
what? Excuse me?
responsible? Any companies that support responsible consumption, like any organizations, corporations?
No, no.
No. Uh, why do you think that schools don't teach us about responsible consumption as much?
I think because it is not because we are ignorant or because we are evil. It's just because we don't think about it. We are discovering mechanisms as we proceed. And that's why it's important that the new generations uh, give this kind of contributions, because we are very busy surviving or teaching or in some making some exercises for the students, and we have no time, or we don't think about this kind of mechanisms that can be used. So the contribution of new students are quite important. That's why I always say to the student, don't let me don't let uh, don't let me to do all the job. You are part of this process. That's why when I ask you for the portfolio or something like this, I said to the student, you have a brain, you must contribute with whatever you want to contribute, the contribution you want to prepare your portfolio. I don't ask the student to do everything as I do, as I said. No, they must make a contribution or discover new mechanisms or new ideas. Yeah, always open. I think the contribution, participation, and of the young people, students, is quite important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty valid point.
I'm going to say something in Spanish. Sir Isaac Newton said in Spanish, I'm going to say it in Spanish. I don't know how to say it in English. Dijo, si hemos llegado tan lejos es porque viajamos en hombros de gigantes. This means that we all must contribute to this process, and we are making a contribution to the previous knowledge, but we are all making a contribution. So your participation as students or new generation is quite important.
Thank you.
Yeah. In your personal experience when teaching all of this and when putting work to your students, as you previously said, what has been the most effective way of teaching us all of that?
I think that is one of the procedures that we are not using at 100%. It's just as an incomplete excuse me mechanism is the use of projects, scientific projects, experiments, or things like this, that in which the students has an idea in teams and then participates in this kind of scientific projects, and it could be by the participating with an idea or with the process. So I think by means of the science projects.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And well, our last question to wrap up the interview is what impact do you think that we're going to have on the environment if the majority of the population worldwide follow a lifestyle that is like you've been describing, like with no big trucks and just the lightest impact possible on the environment for responsible consumption? What kind of world do you think we'll have if people do follow this?
I think it's a much better world.
Yeah?
Yeah, by far.
In what ways do you think it will be better?
Because we will reduce the wastes, pollution, and also the need of more resources, because we're going to use only what we need.
Yeah.
Sometimes we use resources that we really don't need, and so we are causing a big destruction of the environment just because we are living with more resources than what we need. And I think one simple example is the use of water. The use of water, in which you open the faucet, and some people let it flow, and don't close the faucet. So we have to use wisely the resources. If you need water, only use what you need. And there's going to be a big difference in the situation in our city. As you know, today we have how do you call it, how do they call it, to the cutting or shortage of water supply because of this kind of situation. And some people say, the water shortage is only for poor people. I use the water that I need.
Yeah.
And not only what they need, they use the water that they don't need. Just spreading water everywhere.
And well, lastly, do you have anything else you want to add or you want to say to the people that are listening right now?
Well, what I want to say is that I think that the students are very important elements in this process. I think that most of the time depends on them, because all people like me, we are very busy trying to survive, or with an old-fashioned way of thinking. So the new contributions of young people is quite important because they are changing the world. If it sounds like how can I say, I don't know how to say it in English, but una frase hecha. Es decir, los estudiantes cambian el mundo, los alumnos, los jóvenes cambian el mundo. These kind of phrases could be so repeated, but this is true. This is true. Young people is quite important to change the planet, and it can be changed. The planet can be changed. If I am 64 years old, if I say this, that the world can be changed, so I think that the young people can can think the same, even more than I do. Young people must be sure that the world can be changed, can be saved.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. This was an interview for the Keep It Green Consumption with Reduction. And we thank you for having the time to be here and teach us about all of this stuff.
Okay, thank you
Very much.
It's a nice pleasure to be with you.